Hey guys and otherwise, this is Jonathan O. Roselion.
And I'm Noah, better known as Polyphonic, and you're listening to Horns and Wings. Whoa, I just about said Horns and Wigs. You're listening to Horns and Wings, the podcast where we talk about Saga issue by issue.
And this episode we're going to be talking about issue 2, which we're going to have to change the name to Horns and Wigs because this one is going to snatch it. Let's do it.
There's a lot more wings than there is wigs in this whole. Not to drop any big spoilers. There are some wigs. We do see some wigs, but it'll be a while till we get to those.
Well, we haven't gotten to the 10th arc reveal of everyone was wigged the whole time.
I mean, there is a major arc onwards where a character regularly wears a wig.
This is true. Oh boy, this is so spoilery now. We ruined this whole podcast.
Oh, I was so tempted to spoil some stuff reading this episode because there's some stuff coming. There's some stuff coming, guys.
It really, because it really is just so hard. It's so hard. And I just want to talk about just all the cool stuff they're setting up and all the weird parallels and everything. I'll you know what? We'll actually have stuff to talk about later, at least.
Exactly.
The last like after episode 10 of this, it's all going to be, hey, this is that thing I wanted to talk about forever ago. And we're just going to talk about the old issues then. Actually, you know what? We should go back and like do one episode on the first issue with that like perspective of stuff, because there's so many things.
So
I'm
you're
like,
saying
paying
once
attention.
We're done, we should just go back over it and do it again.
We should do the whole
spoilers.
thing again. I need, you know what? We need some sustainability, some monetary sustainability on here. So,
just doing this until the ends of the earth. All right, this is read through number 476.
You know what? Something I didn't pick up the first 475 times was they were wearing a wig this time. Blew my mind.
All right, so should we just dive into the story then?
Yeah, let's do that. Page 1. What are we looking at here, Noah?
We're looking at more of Fiona Staples' beautiful goddamn space.
Oh my
Looks
gosh.
like some kind of asteroid field that also somehow looks delicious, like it's made of rock candy or something. It's very vibrant, and we see the Onion spaceship from inside. Somebody who, spoiler alert, it's the Will, is saying, call my agent.
Spoiler alert for page 2. Yes, which I feel like we haven't gotten into full on like just hyper absurd opening splashes. I feel
just a propellered onion flying through an asteroid field of rock candy.
Yeah. My standards have gotten so low from this series for just normalcy that this is another day. This is just another day of the week. So yeah, we start out with Will this time in Lion Cat. And the Will is talking to his agent, obviously.
Who's also a seahorse.
And oh my gosh, Noah, I need this office. Noah?
The seahorse's office?
The seahorse's office needs to be.
Because I was going to say, I kind
live.
of I live in the Will's office. That looks like my apartment.
Yeah, that's true. I need to switch from the Will's office, which is in a kitchen, which is so accurate, and so the seahorse agent, which I don't think has a name yet, at least.
No, not as far as I've read. He is not named.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Who is just sitting at a desk on like a tropical beach, and that's it. There's just a desk and a chair on a beach.
And also not. It seems to be a beach on a moon because the horizon is like a Saturn-like
Yes.
planet.
Yeah,
I think it's interesting too, though, because even just this setting really sets up a certain kind of dynamic with who the agent is and how this agency works, and especially coming from Brian K. Vaughan, who's worked in the entertainment industry, it definitely really feels like a bit of a commentary on like what entertainment agents working from the beach, kind of detached from all of this stuff.
Right.
Only instead of booking
deaths.
movies. Yeah, exactly. It's booking mercenaries.
Which, I'm gonna be totally unselfish here. I'm gonna say I don't even need the Saturn view from the beach. I just need the beach office. I'll take that. I'll be totally satisfied.
So you'll really slum it.
I know, yeah. Sacrifices must be made until we have that round 2 money of us starting over and going back through it, and that's where the money really kicks in. Till then, I'm gonna take a Saturnless beach. But yeah, this is so appealing to all of my Jimmy Buffett needs in life.
I think that this scene too really, it does an incredible job. This is some of the like setting up the standard that's to be expected with exposition in Saga. Mm-hmm. Like this whole these 2 pages exposit so much information, but don't actually really tell you outright. They're not like, oh, the Will is a mercenary who works for an agency, and there's a bunch of other people who work for it whose names all begin with the. Right. But you come out of this knowing all of those things.
Yeah. You know what? Actually, you know what I was trying to think of is one thing I want to pay attention to on this playthrough is, do you think there is secretly like an actual logic behind the mercenary names for each mercenary?
I feel like there's I feel like, I don't know if there's an in-universe logic, but I feel like kind of there's a logic behind the writing of their names. Like, yeah. I think that their names are very symbolic and meaningful, like most names in literature. But I don't know that in world. And the other thing too is that I also like it. Like, I don't really want to be explained why it's this, whether it's an earned title or they choose their name or they're like I don't want any of that really explained to me. I just love knowing that these mercenaries are the Will, the Stalk. They mention the Fluke.
The Fluke.
I would 100% be the Fluke if I'm if I'm any of them.
That's something I want to like just keep an eye on going forward is how sort of foreboding some of these names might be, or how relevant to the story they might be. And maybe, who knows, maybe it's a little extra something that Brian K. Vaughan threw in there. And maybe I'm just overanalyzing this because it's a fucking overanalyzing podcast. That's what you're listening to. It's what you pay those big bucks for. So we're delivering.
I think also it, like, I don't know, I just like seeing that internal logic without having to be explained it. Like, now, from now on, we know that if somebody is referred to as they're probably a mercenary.
Yep. So pretty much the scene runs down as Will talks to his agent. The agent says that the Stalk is also on the same job as the Will, and the Will's like, well, okay, fuck this, I'm gonna go get laid on the prostitute planet instead and max out this credit card.
Aptly named, as we will see, Sextillion.
It's so good. This is a good book.
And then we cut to another splash page.
Yes, which I absolutely love. This transition, and again, just like what you talked about, how it's so smooth, and this story knows exactly what to do and exactly when to do it, and cutting out all the effect. And so we are just in media res, the like cut to Marco and Alana tied up by vines in the forest, which is, didn't we see them falling asleep and there are red eyes behind them? So that's not even like
we didn't see them falling asleep. We saw them standing at the verge of a precipice with red eyes behind them.
Right. Yes. I that's the end of this scene. But yeah, so we're just thrown into the action here. And it's a very very fun scene that establishes a little bit of how the magic works, where they're being tangled alive by these vines, and Marco says that he needs a secret as an ingredient for his spell to destroy these vines. And
what I think is really interesting though too is not just how the magic works. I think that this scene, as I was reading through, I noticed it actually tells you a lot about Alana and Marco's relationship, in that it tells you how new they still are to each other's worlds and each other's cultures. Like, even though we've mentioned the sword already in the last issue, Alana doesn't really seem to understand the sacredness of the sword. She doesn't really understand what magic is or what its rules are or how it works. And I think it really shows that these people care about each other and love each other, but they're still in very different, disparate worlds, kind of, that they're just starting to smash together.
Yes, yeah. And the... Also that, again, instead of just using like you said with the exposition, how it was very non-exposition-y exposition, the fantasy and the world building in this is very non-world building, where where it's not just like, oh, I need the feather of a phoenix and the horseshoe of a magic horse, and there are like 3 different types of magic horses. I don't know, I didn't come up with any of those names, but the
unicorn,
spell,
Pegasus. What's give me a third one.
Of course everyone knows Mr. Ed. Don't tell me that fucker isn't magic. He talks.
Also this is a real tangent. I hate that people use Pegasus as a descriptor for all winged horses. Pegasus is a proper noun. Pegasus is a winged horse, one specific winged horse. Not all winged horses are Pegasi.
He's the Kleenex and jacuzzi of winged horses.
Exactly.
You're getting into copyright infringement when you're just throwing that name around.
Yeah. This is I mean, I guess technically there are winged horses in this. We've already seen winged horses, which I will call winged horses and not Pegasi anymore.
Well, here's the problem, is you've just eradicated the word Pegasi from the dictionary because there's only one. We need to name a second horse Pegasus.
Well, I mean it depends. If you're doing like a Crisis on Infinite Earths things, and you have like Greek myth Pegasus runs into Disney Pegasus, then they're Pegasi.
The evil clone of Pegasus. So now that we've learned something, the magic needs a secret to work, and I love that, like so many things in this comic, it is always a chance to do something else, to, in this case, reveal character. So because, like I said, it could have been, we need the wing of a dove, and no, it's we need to find out that Alana likes the taste of her own breast milk. and so even the magical spells are character revealing and like moving the scene forward and are entertaining, and I love it. And her face in that top left panel when she admits that while getting strangled by vines, and she's just so reluctant to say this thing and so annoyed by it, is some of my favorite acting, I guess, in this book. But it is so good.
Is so that funny. what we're gonna call it when Fiona Staples draws just incredibly vibrant facial expressions acting?
Yes. Yeah.
Because I think that's a precedent we're gonna need to set.
Yeah, well, here's the thing is that don't think for a second that all of these, as fabricated as they are, these are the most real characters in my brain. So
yeah, I for one am outraged that Alana hasn't won Best Actress yet.
Oscar's so human. So
Oscar's so real.
I can see that becoming a category post popular selection or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So what else do we get? We find out that she likes her own breast milk. It gets rid of the vines. They have a quick little discussion about stuff and how they're tired.
Then we cut to just sweet moments with Hazel narration. And Hazel narration, as always, Hazel narration is so cool because it takes like completely normal stories of like what it is to raise a child. This feels like Brian K. Vaughan talking about his own experience raising his new child, right?
Yeah,
like this feels so raw with like no matter the best intentions, everything goes wrong. The gawkers show up and people come far and wide to watch and help and stuff like that. It just feels like a really like personal moment. And then it's overlaid over Saga.
Yeah. And and you know what? Something that this is a fun little practice. Here's some insight from a fellow comic creator, but let's just appreciate the panel layout here and the panel shapes, because we start out with when Marco's hanging from a tree. All of the panels are very tall and skinny. Which create a downward motion, which is very effective for being hung upside down. And then we actually, she increases the size of the gutter around the panel where he falls to make an even more extreme top to bottom motion there. So she creates the action of him following. Why do I keep saying following? She creates the action of him falling through just the shape of the panel and the thinness of the panel. And then it's from there we get that transition into square panels, into wider rectangle panels. And so then, because of that, we get to see the passing of time. We get that long left to right reading of the panels on that last page of the scene when we're showing time passing over an extended amount of time. So it is this very awesome way to control the pacing throughout the scene that is extremely subliminal and just so well done. And you know what, Fiona, you're doing pretty good. I approve so far.
Alrighty. That's actually a really, really neat insight. I don't actually have much to add, but that's real fucking cool.
That's the only one I got. I'm done for this series now.
It's gonna be a long 400 rereads.
I'll just start making shit up by like the end of this episode and make up for it. It'll be good. So yeah, they fall asleep, right. And again, there's the red eyes behind them, and when she mentions when the gawkers show up and the red eyes in the woods in the darkness appear, which is fantastic. And then we cut to our first Prince Robot, the fourth scene.
Yeah, what's our good old TV-headed friend doing?
So it's a pretty straightforward scene. He's headed back. He's gone to where Alana was posted as a soldier, and he's planning on asking some questions. And he is talking to this soldier and finds out that Alana was obsessed with a book.
That's not just any soldier. That's Lance Corporal McHenry.
Oh my gosh! I forgot the who may or may not
Lance
be a
Corporal
major
McHenry. Player. Anyways, the book.
So he says he finds out from Lance Corporal McHenry, who will of course be a mainstay of. I'm gonna put in my 2 cents now. Best character in the book. Best character in the series right here. And he becomes what are we looking at when he finds out about when he says what kind of books? It seems like a face in flames. Screaming?
Yeah, like a distorted face in flames, and we really start to get. I love one of my favorite, and I will talk about this throughout the rest of the series. I love the way that they use like the robot race's faces.
Yes.
And just the idea that like it's almost like a kind of like, I don't know if it's a weakness or a trait of this race, that it seems like when they're calm, cool, and collected, their TVs are blank. But then when something emotional happens, whether it's an outburst, whether it's something happy, whether it's something sexual, when something kind of powerfully emotional happens, a corresponding image goes onto their face. And that creates a really, really powerful moment anytime it does. And it's a great way that you can show emotion for people that are faceless, especially in a medium that's entirely visual.
You know what? This is a comparison that you'll appreciate, because I realized while reading this at that exact panel that the possibilities they create by having that ability to show whatever images on their screen is virtually the same in terms of just flexibility of character as Jake the dog in Adventure Time. And
oh, absolutely.
Something I loved about Adventure Time was just he could change no matter, like, in the perfect way for any situation, and it added so, like, just it's just such a fun trait for a character to have, and can create, like, there's so much creativity that can be funneled through this character, and he's done that with an entire race of beings in this comic, and I appreciate that a lot.
Know what another thing I find interesting about Prince Robot is let's play a game, and listeners here too. What's Prince Robot's voice like in your head? What are any robots you see?
Mm-hmm. You know,
in my mind, they're very human, right? Like in my mind, in my mind, they sound like the way you and I talk. And I think that that's a very deliberate choice made by the lettering in particular.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of the time when you'll see things that are robots talking or stuff like that, they'll color them differently, weight them differently. But I think in my mind, like, all of the robots sound very human, maybe with like uppity British accents, because they're the aristocracy. But I think that that's a really interesting kind of design choice that plays out as we get to know these characters more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Like, now that I'm really looking at it, it is so subtle how different the lettering is, but still creates this just slightly different, fantastic air to all these characters. Shout out to Phonographics for the letters. And yeah, because it is it is like just
the font is slightly different.
Yeah, it's just like it's pretty much the normal font, but like with just a hint of that like classic original like computer font to it.
Yeah, like it's a little squared out.
Mm-hmm. And in my head he is the biggest British douchebag that I can
He's imagine. Like, in my mind, he's like Paul Bettany.
Exactly. Yes. So yeah. That's a potential for question of the week is who do you hear or like how do these robots sound to you? Are they robot-y? Are they human? Are they a specific person? Are they a specific dialect? Yeah, that sounds interesting enough. And then there's this. Go ahead.
And then we get to something that we discussed before the show even started.
Yes.
Very, very important part.
You know what? If I had to say what my second favorite character is behind Lance Corporal McHenry, is that it? Sure. It is Chinese Dragon Train.
Dragon Train, yeah, absolutely, Dragon Train.
Which how is that in your notes? How is that transcribed in your notes?
Just I have a note here. It's all caps, Dragon Train. I actually have 3 things in all caps in this issue. We'll see what the other 2 are. I bet you
Awesome.
You could probably guess them now. But
So
we'll have to wait to get to that.
I have the most minor spoilers in my notes here, and it's Dragon Train that is dope and we'll never see it again. And that's something that I love so much about this series. This would be one of the coolest things ever in anything else that would like stand out apart from like everything else. If someone got on a Dragon Train,
there's
in
a series
any other series
out there. There's a series out there where like a conceptual series where the Dragon Train is like their Millennium Falcon.
Yes, absolutely.
But in this, the Dragon Train is just no. It's just a background set piece. There's a train. It's a dragon
panel. And that's something that I really feel like it must just be like the amount of effort that goes into all these tiny little details in the character design. I hope it's just because it's so fun that Fiona Staples is, spend like putting that much effort into something we'll never see again. Just because like, man, this panel didn't even need that, but it's just such a cool thing. I love it so much.
And then also this panel has a great, another great, like we were talking about in the last episode, making the transition to the next page. Who has time to read anymore? Cut to a baby crying. Again, that feels pretty personal coming from an author who just had a newborn baby writing this, Brian K. Vaughan.
And this is what the final scene of the issue actually.
Is it already?
Yeah, it's a meaty scene, but I believe this is because this is something that's interesting that I've noticed, and I want to keep an eye on going forward, is that there is this very specific one Will scene, one Prince Robot scene, and then the rest all Alana and Marco structure to each one of these issues. That's
interesting. That definitely changes as we get a wider cast of characters.
Yeah,
but that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. That structure.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see how much they stick to that early on and when that changes, because at least for these first two issues, that is 100% the case, and I think
that's very true.
That is a very good way to sort of keep juggling all these storylines while maintaining the focus on who we want to be focused on.
I mean, it's pretty stereotypical storytelling, right? Meanwhile, back at the farm.
Yeah.
Or back at the ranch, or whatever that one that everyone quotes from Hitchcock is.
I believe it was back at the shower in which the woman is getting murdered. That's
I thought you were going to say, I believe it's meanwhile back in the rocket ship forest haunted by horrors.
It's not that stereotypical. But meanwhile, back at the rocket ship horror, I almost got it. I'll let you say it again because fuck all that words.
Meanwhile, back at the rocket ship forest haunted by horrors.
All right, and 3 times fast. Not really.
Only they're not actually at the rocket ship forest. They're looking for the rocket ship forest. They're at another forest, I think.
This is the SpaceX forest, which is significantly less cool and morally gray. So where the baby's crying, and Alana says it's because the baby sounds scared. And so we think that we're setting up the horrors showing up. But what shows up instead?
What shows up is my next all caps in my notes.
I knew
the
it.
Stalk.
Yep.
Beautiful splash page too. That I think rereading, like, in my mind, I have so many like associations with the Stalk that you need to look back, and when you first see this page, you really have no idea. You think it could be a horror. It feels like she's like threatening, but she also has this look on her face where it looks like maybe she's like detached or looking for help or something. You really have no idea.
Or almost like a curious look.
Yeah. It feels like I don't know. She looks like the kind of specter you'd see wandering the forests outside of an old Victorian manor.
Yeah, and honestly, at this point, it switches. Like, this just becomes a horror comic. Even to the gutters turn from white to black on that splash page, and is super unsettling. But yeah,
even there's so much motion in this. This is actually something that I'm starting to notice. Is Fiona Staples really likes having kind of dust and stuff falling in the air, and it gives this eerie sense of almost like time standing still, and just like little bits of ash and dust floating around in the air.
Yeah, that's a very Akira Kurosawa thing to do, where just this sense of motion. I mean, he would do it to actually create motion, but I like that effect of like if you pause the things that your brain knows are in motion, like it can either have that effect or just make the page come to life in a way that is really
absolutely
cool. But okay, so let's describe the Stalk here because she's insane. So it is the top half of what we can see right now is a blonde woman with 8 eyes, spider-like eyes,
eight red eyes, very long blonde hair, like down almost to her belly button.
Topless and no arms. Sort of, what's that called? The Venus de Milo?
Oh yeah, Venus de Milo-esque. Yeah, and very much in that kind of physique too, and also wearing a black tiara, kind of.
Yeah, and then a big old black gown or skirt,
a big old flowy gown that seems to be hanging like low on her hips.
And could be covering up something. Who knows? So one thing that I absolutely love, and it just shows how much Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples just know the strengths of this series. The fact that they just have a splash page that is not some big action or anything. It's not some dynamic angle. It's not some it is just a reveal of a character design. and that is, they just recognize how strong and amazing the character design in this comic is, that they're just like, you get a splash page to just reveal how cool and terrifying this character is, and it is so cool. It's so cool. Actually, that's something we'll see more and more of, just like these splash pages that reveal amazing character designs.
My favorite panel in all of Saga is a splash page introduction of a character that we won't get to in a while.
Yeah,
they also might be my favorite character in all of Saga, but that is we're looking forward to that.
My favorite. I think I know who you're talking about. My favorite image is a double page splash reveal of a character.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
That I have never felt so much joy from a comic book from just turning a page as much as I did that reveal.
And here's something for you guys to look forward to, you guys that are on our no spoiler squad that haven't read it. It is just, that splash page just makes so much sense. Yep. Everything about it is exactly logical to what you would expect it to be, and it's beautiful.
It is so satisfying. I'm so excited.
But we're already talking about panels that we won't see for months. So
Yep. All right. So what are we seeing? So there's this terrifying woman, and she reveals herself to be the Stalk. And
Marco, in true Marco fashion, is trying to kind of calm the situation, and then she says the Stalk. And now earlier in the issue, we have established that the means freelancer, which Alana must have been reading the comic, because she notices and screams. And then we turn the page and oh my fucking god.
Just alien. It's an alien movie now. So the Stalk is piercing Marco's shoulder with something out of her mouth. Some kind of it seems like a needle tongue.
Yeah, like
Probably
a needle
poisonous.
point tongue.
Ooh, you know what? Now that I can see, now that I'm noticing the back, like, because I didn't notice it coming out of the backside and seeing the end of that tongue, which is very barbed and thick and painful looking, and I hate it. And no.
Well, and also I love, again, just the great use of the gutters, the way a bit of Marco's blood splashes back over the
draws
gutters.
attention to it. It's so cool. The Stalk pierces Marco's shoulder. He seems very in pain. I would be too, probably. And then so the Stalk is gonna go for Alana next, and Alana brings out a stun gun, and so then we get the reveal of what's under the Stalk's dress, and it is eight flesh tone spider arms with human hands
and a big thorax,
a massive thorax, and holding a Han Solo revolver, a knife, a shotgun, the base of a lance, and a battle axe.
And also her hands/feet are so creepy because they are like weird extended 5-digit human hands.
Yes.
On the end of these spider legs. It makes me looking
at how she's holding herself up with those hands. It, like, I immediately know how she moves in my head, and it's terrifying, and I hate it.
I just love too how, like, the logic of her limbs, and how like certain ones are grabbing the guns and one's up front, and she's kind of holding herself up on two, and it's just all
yeah. And also, this is like this is a semi-splash. This is practically another splash page. So we get 2 character design reveals from the same character in like 3 pages apart, and it's amazing. But this is something that took me way too long to realize, which is she's holding that hilt of a lance there.
Yeah.
And they're called lancers. They're freelancers, and they have lances. And it took me so long to realize that.
I didn't even get that.
Yeah. See, this is why we have to analyze this stuff, because I'm way too dumb to figure it out the first time.
This is also why showing nipples does not automatically mean sexual. This panel is living proof of that paradigm.
The Stalk is the most sexually confusing character to me since, like, I saw Lola Bunny in Space Jam as a kid, and I'm just like, I don't understand anything anymore. And I have the biggest phobia of spiders, and I have too many feelings about this, and this panel eliminates a lot of those feelings. It makes it very cut and dry. It's a big no thanks from me.
I also just love, and this is again a trend that we'll see a lot in Saga, a female coded character topless non-sexually. I mean, we will also see them sexually, but so often in sci-fi especially, female coded characters are like wearing space bikinis and things like that, right?
Yeah.
And this is a topless, the Stalk is topless with spider legs, whipping out guns, and about to severely fuck shit up.
Oh, so cool. She's a cool lady, and I'd never ever want to meet her.
In the next page, we get a bit more of her personality, which seems like she has like a really kind of morbid, grim sense of humor, and also just like a general badassery.
Yes,
it's a standoff of 2 very badass ladies with very inappropriate senses of humor.
Yes, and we get so the Stalk's pretty much just like, I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna take your baby, because that's what I'm getting paid to do. And then Alana points a stun gun at her, and Stalk's like, what are you gonna do with that thing? That's nothing. And then she says, well, it is gonna do something to my baby, and points the gun at the baby, saying that,
Also, also worth pointing out, a throwaway line by the Stalk that I'm always interested in, especially going forward, is the her pointing at Marco and saying, for what it's worth, sounds like he was quite the vicious piece of shit back in the day.
Yeah.
And you've already heard a few times that, like you're starting to get a trend that before Marco was pacified, he might have really fucked shit up, and keep an eye out for people saying things like that.
Yes.
As we go on.
Some very, very foreboding line.
I'm so interested in Marco's past.
I'd also like to throw away one of my favorite lines, which is from the Stalk, "Damn, bitch." in response to the gun to the baby's head.
Again, the acting here by Alana is so good, especially when she first puts the gun to her head. You see that like crazy desperation in her eyes. Like she's painted so like stalwart, like I will fucking do this if I have to. Yes. And it gives you a peek into the strength of Alana as a character and as a mother.
Yeah. And just to make it clear for the people who might not have read this, but her putting the gun to the baby's head is very much for the baby's own protection, and not wanting the baby to be tested and whatever the hell the people are going to do to the baby. So yeah, it's very justified. She's not just using the baby as a shield here. And then we get some ooze, some red ooze coming from off panel. Ooh. And it terrifies the Stalk and sends the Stalk running, saying that.
So this beautiful piece of poetry. Do you want to read it?
Oh no! Please.
Alrighty, the Stalk says, "This is the horrors that we've been talking about." She says, I once saw a pack of them rip a man's spine out through his urethra. That's not an exaggeration. I saw that. Which is just viscerally unpleasant. I've never had my spine ripped out through anywhere. I imagine anywhere would be painful, but through the urethra, I feel like would be particularly.
You know, at that point, I'm not super specific or picky about it. If you're gonna pull it out, like, fine. So that seems a bit like overkill. Yeah, no, it is very graphic, and then she says, if they take their time digesting you three, I might still have a shot, and hightails it. And
if someone this terrifying is terrified,
yes,
there might be some fucking shit coming.
Yes, and this is one of my favorite little details here of like, there's always things that like could have gone so wrong if it was in any lesser hands, but with the we start hearing these hellos, like all these off panel hello in this like pink font, and if it was just hello, like period, it would not be scary. like not half as scary, but it's this like curious childlike hello with a question mark, and they start like flooding the panel with these curious hellos and those red eyes.
The acting as Alana turns around and screams, the look on her face is just sheer horror. She's barely had any sleep in the last 3 days. She's already gone through hell, and she turns around, and whatever she sees, she's just completely rattled.
Yeah, and we get one more hello, we've been watching you, and we get the final splash, the big cliffhanger, and these horrors are just a bunch of ghost kids.
Just a bunch of ghost kids with their heads and legs blown off and bullet holes in them. But they really don't look...
contemporary clothes.
Very contemporary clothes. They don't look super spooky, though. Their posing looks like they're the cliche of they're more afraid of you than you are of them.
Yeah, and then the main ghost kid, which there's a slight alien look to them. They have big ears and these sort of Voldemort noses. And the main ghost kid right up front has no lower half, cut off, just intestines hanging out of a floating torso, and she's saying, "Looks like you could use a hand."
And dope wrist bracers.
Yes. Yeah, she seems very helpful and not horrific.
That ends our episode.
Yeah, that ends. That's here. So the one thing I find interesting about this issue is
ends our issue, not ends our episode.
Yeah,
sorry.
Yeah, don't you dare cut me off. I have so much rambling to do. No, so one thing I was thinking about is, like, whenever you're suggesting a show to someone or a comic series to someone, and like there's usually that point where it's like, okay, watch to season 2, and that's when the show really kicks in. And that's like for Steven Universe, which I will talk about forever. I always say watch to the Giant Woman episode in the first season, and that is very much representative of the show going forwards once it's found its groove. And with this series, that is issue 2 for me, where it's just like, this is what the series is now for the rest of the only thing that changes is you become more and more attached to these characters. But in terms of pacing and adventure and terror and all these emotions and violence, actually it wasn't as violent. There was some violent descriptions, but
I mean, the Stalk stabbing Marco in the collarbone with her fucking tongue is pretty violent.
Yeah. And so, and well, yeah, and we get a good amount of violence in the first issue. But yeah, honestly, like, if this isn't your jam, if you're not on board at this point, then
you're never gonna be on board if you're not on board.
Yeah, because we are just, it's a full sprint now of just like, we are in it. There's not any more exposition dumps, except for like the occasional issue where it's like, hey, for new readers, here's an exposition dump. But like, it's just, we're in it now.
I think this really also shows up. You get it a lot in the first issue. You get a lot of stuff thrown at you. But you get a lot of stuff thrown at you in the first issue of anything, especially something fantasy or sci-fi.
Yeah.
Where this second issue, the theme is just they keep throwing crazy fucking weird stuff at you, right? Yeah. Like it's just relentless. It's just the Stalk. It's just ghost teenagers wearing contemporary clothes. It's a seahorse agent. Just like this stuff. You get the sense that it's like, okay, it's not like the first issue set up the world and now we're going to live in that world. It's like, this is a world that is always going to be continually setting itself up.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like the amount of stuff it's throwing at you in this issue is 100% consistent with every issue going forward, where there's not going to be an issue where you don't get some crazy new alien or like planet or plot twist or anything like that. It's just this consistent like feed of just
insanity.
Yeah, just the most creative insanity, and I love it. I love it so much. It's a good issue. Hey Noah, what do you have any other summarizing thoughts on this issue? Any other takeaways?
The Stalk is really fucking cool.
Stalk is really fucking takeaway.
Cool. And I think it's interesting because I think kind of if we're talking broader themes, this really sets up a lot of what we're gonna see going forward, which is that there's these 3 characters at the center of it all: Marco, Alana, and Hazel. And it's showing, we're starting to get the introduction to kind of the rotating cast of characters that will drift in and out of their lives as we follow them and as Hazel grows up.
Yes. So do you have a favorite moment from this issue?
Yeah, it's the Stalk. It's when the first. My favorite moment is the first, but also the one where she's got the weapons. Yeah, this might be the easiest thing to pick a favorite moment from. Actually, there's like 2 or 3 other easy ones, but yeah, it's the Stalk. It's always going to be the Stalk.
I do not blame you.
It was always you.
You know what? I'm gonna surprise you a bit here. I went back through and I was like, what brought me the most joy? Which obviously it's different for me because this is the 100th time. McHenry. But Lance Corporal McHenry is just like, it's so interesting to see the seeds of that arc and all those things they're setting up for her amazing character arc, and she's 100% gonna be the main character. Spoiler alert. No, my favorite thing, just on an emotional, like, this is such a me thing, but my favorite thing was cutting to them tied up in vines in the middle of the jungle, and just that sense of like there are so many stories that it's gonna show them get tangled up in vines first, and it's gonna have that suspenseful lead into it, and it's gonna
they're like going through a vine, grabs one, whips them up, the other person turns around, oh no,
and the fact is that, like, you just so easily described that, meaning that when we see that first splash page, we know exactly what happened, and therefore we don't need that whole lead up. And they are so smart to know that and just be like, nah, you're in the middle of this action, and we're putting you we're just going to show you the best part of everything at all times, and none of that other stuff.
I think that's very true to adulthood. In that you turn the page and find yourself in the middle of a whole situation, and like you kind of know how you got here, but how you got here doesn't really matter. You're in the middle of vines. You're trying to figure your shit out.
100%. But yeah. I love that emotion that it gives me to just turn the page and be surprised by this whole new situation is so much more satisfying than that if they had done the suspenseful buildup of, oh, there's a vine creeping up, and it's like, I know the vine's gonna grab them, like, I'm not dumb. So it's just like, that is just an example of like this comic is always going to surprise you, and it's always going to know how to surprise you in the best ways, and I love it. It's so good.
And so do we want to end on the question of what do you think that the robots talk like?
Yeah, but first let's play that sweet question theme music.
Right.
Oh, how about that theme music?
The questions. Do.
I put in some cool theme music, but I appreciate the composership there. It's very beautiful. So how about that theme music that we just heard? That was really cool. I just want an excuse to put in cool, more synth music into this podcast. So that's what we got. Yeah, so the official question of the week is, what do these danged robots sound like in your head?
What? Yeah, are they robotual? Are they human? Are they midway through?
Do you
have any actors that you like to picture them as in your head?
Are they
Is
British
it Gilbert
Daft
Gottfried?
Oh shit! New headcanon. Yeah, I'm fascinated. This is God, and I'd like a much more pretentious question written down, and I like this one so much more because it's actually interesting. So
I had another question too that I can save it for another one.
Oh yeah, we gotta come up with like 100 of these things. So I'm happy. So yeah. Put that question. Respond in the comments of the video. Respond. Oh, we now have Horns and Wings podcast, or is it Horns and Wings pod? Which one did I say it was? Time to go back through the messages. This is the new theme song for the segment. Boy, we just talk about a bunch of boring shit, huh? Here we go. Okay. So send it to hornsandwingspod@gmail.com. All one word. Don't put an ampersand in there like a dummy. That's not how email addresses work. So you can send responses there. And you know what? I'm gonna figure out. Hashtags are hard, so I might just skip hashtags. You got to put in the effort of writing a comment on a YouTube video. Or just, you know what, just tweet at us with your answer if you want to.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, where can they find us?
Oh yeah. So I'm right behind you. Look around slowly. But I'm also on the twitter.com. I'm at Jonathan Oscar, JOHNATHON OSCAR, Jonathan Oscar. And I'm also on Make Stuff on YouTube, youtube.com/MakeStuffStudios. Check out all my cool videos. I got a Saga one on there. Go watch the Saga one. You're 3 episodes into this. Jeez. I need that. You know, if you go watch it, you're increasing the amount of people that watched it by like 30%. So I need those views. That's it for me. What do we got for you? Where can they find you?
You can find me also, amazingly, weird coincidence, I'm also on Twitter.
Oh my gosh. Everything I do, you have to rip it off, don't you?
My handle is Watch Polyphonic, which I know was originally what you were going to put as your handle, but I ripped it off preemptively.
I thought about it, but then I'm like, it's just not good enough, is it? It's just kind of lame.
But yeah, I'm on Twitter at Watch Polyphonic, and I'm on YouTube at youtube.com/c/polyphonic. And by the time this comes out, I'll probably have, if you want a video to check out my video on clipping Splendor and Misery. It's a real cool sci-fi piece that you should really just, if you like sci-fi and if you like cool things and if you like good aesthetics, check it out. So,
yeah, watch that video, listen to that album while you read this book. That seems like a good match.
We should start doing more like intertextual stuff, like stuff that you should read or listen to or watch alongside Saga. I mean, there's nothing like Saga, but you know.
Yeah, you know, I have a great opening one. My YouTube channel. just put that baby on repeat and zone out for a bit. Leave the room, whatever. Your dog can listen to it.
There's actually like a Dark Side of the Moon / Wizard of Oz thing with it, where if you get really stoned, I'm allowed to say that. I live in Canada. It's legal here. And then watch Dark Side of the Moon and then read Saga, regardless of your reading pace, and watch all of Jonathan's videos on repeat. They sync up in really weird ways.
Wow, yeah, and those are very easy instructions to follow if you're high too. So that's gonna work out perfectly. Awesome. Oh, and thank you, Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, Phonographic, Image Comics, for making the best comic book ever made by humans or aliens. And yeah, thanks for listening. Hey, you want to hit them with that final last line, that classic outro?
Am I shitting?
Am I shitting? Bye.
Bye.